where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in e-discovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal Brainspace, the industry's leading AI e-discovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to Watch Me, George Socia, weekly with leaders in e-discovery. Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socia. I head up brand awareness at Reveal. And this week we are broadcasting live from Legalweek with a very different background, maybe some noise in the background as well. We cannot control that. I have with me, excuse the voice, it's been getting a little dry here. I have with me Caroline Sweeney, who is from Dorsey, Whitney. Caroline, let's start by you telling everybody a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Sure. So, Caroline Sweeney from Dorsey and Whitney. I'm based in Minneapolis, although I support our attorneys across the globe, actually. My official title is Director of Knowledge Management and Innovation and E-Discovery at Dorsey. So, in that role, we have I'm responsible for all of our e-discovery services, our managed review service, and then as I've branched out beyond that, looking at AI tools, looking at how we support practices outside of just the traditional litigation and investigation realm, doing more on the contract AI side and what have you. So a lot of variety, and it's never boring.
This is not your first Legal Week.
No, it is not my first Legal Week, and not to date myself or make myself sound too old, but my very first Legal Week, I was in my early 20s, and I came to Legal Week, and I was at the time working for a company called Quorum Systems, which was a division of Control Data. Eventually, they were acquired by Kroll.
Important little point. Quorum was the very first litigation support provider anywhere on the planet.
Because of the IBM
1966.
Case. Yeah, well, that was way before my time. But when my first legal tech, the big thing that was happening then was that all of the companies like Quorum and their competitors were coming out with what was then called direct data entry. So instead of filling out paper coding forms and what have you, you were sending off to be keyed and what have you, and then uploaded to a database. It was revolutionary, entering coding information directly into a computer, saved to a floppy disk, and then ultimately uploaded to a database. But I have not consistently attended legal tech since 1987, but over the years, it's interesting. I've seen kind of the cycle of all the exciting things, in legal tech, whether it was like document automation or when we moved away from mainframes and started having tools like concordance and summation, the predictive coding phase, the moving to the cloud phase, and then of course this year, AI.
So the buzz this year, I take it, is AI. Tell more about the buzz. What are you seeing?
It's interesting. So one of the things that I'm most excited about is we've actually been users of Casetext, and I've had a little preview of their Chat GPT with their co-counsel tool. And what I'm excited about is how that technology or that functionality has the potential to, I think, transform a lot of what we're doing. Maybe in the e-discovery realm, I don't know if the doc review is the first place I would be applying that, but think about taking your key documents and getting ready for a deposition and using ChatGPT to help you formulate a chronology of the events and what sort of questions to ask a potential witness. I think there's huge promise, and I think while it's in its very early stages, I think that it's going to change rapidly, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity. But certainly you're seeing for years, right? We've been using not necessarily AI, but analytic tools in e-discovery to help cull our data sets and help create efficiencies. At our firm, we are huge users of continuous active learning, a form of AI. And then, of course, we use AI when it comes to contract review. I think what you're seeing is, the evolution of some of the tools that will now help with drafting first iterations of a contract. And so what is that going to do to the transformation of the practice of law?
There has to be the concern out there that the more the AI does, the less there will be for the lawyers to do, and how that will impact the billable hour?
Absolutely. I think there is that concern. In fact, I had a first-year associate stop me and ask me one day in the hallway, like, can we have coffee sometime and talk about, like, is AI going to take my job? And so I think there is a little bit of that fear. I think there's a little bit still of the distrust. I think we're a long way from, in fact, I read an article last week that I thought phrased it well, that AI is more about automating tasks than it is about taking on jobs. I also think it creates other job opportunities for those of us in this industry. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting. I've had a number of lawyers where we have some upcoming retreats in the next few weeks at our firm, and I've had a number of lawyers reach out and say, hey, what are we doing around AI? And can you talk to us about AI? And so it's on everybody's mind, but it's still.
So it sounds like it's on their mind, just not just something to be concerned and fearful of, but also something interested and curious about.
I think so.
What types of things do you think? Where do you think this could go? But we'll get into the totally speculative here.
Well, like I was saying, I think that, to be able to take a set of documents and say, these are my key documents, or this is my potential witness kit. Mm-hmm. What do I do here? The chronology functionality, people spend a lot of time creating chronologies, and can you feed it the AI documents to then just push the button and have them create the chronology?
Yep.
I think they're still also trying to understand how much human intervention is needed, right? We're huge users of continuous active learning. And while we rely on it heavily, whether it's to prioritize documents or to use it more in the sense of stopping review once we've stopped finding relevant documents and validated that, I think human intervention is a critical part of that. And I don't think, well, we'll see, but I just don't think it's going to be something, it's going to enhance your work, not replace your work, I hope.
You've mentioned a couple of times now that you're huge users of TAR, or continuous active learning, which of course is a form of AI.
Right.
How huge are you in terms of huge users?
So it's integrated into our standard processes. So just take processing data. It will go into an EDA process where we're looking at things like the timeline views to highlight for the legal team. Are there custodians or gaps in the documents that we've collected? And do we need to understand, are there additional people that we need to go and collect from? We're using it to prioritize documents for review. We're using social networking functionality to look at who's talking with whom. We're using concept clustering to understand what are people talking about. We're using that to help vet search terms. We're using machine translation and audio transcription, and then layering on top of that the predictive coding and concept analysis as well. So one of the things that we do that I'm really proud of, and this came out of feedback we got a few years ago from some associates, but actually several years ago, probably 10 years ago, but new associates coming into the litigation practice are, they receive obviously a series of trainings. We have one full day, e-discovery day, where they spend the day with us learning. We play games like e-discovery lingo bingo, and we show different analytic tools and ask them, what do you think these are? What do you think these are? These visuals can tell you. How would you use it? We do mock like custodian and IT interviews. But my point there, I guess, is that we're really trying to educate them on these tools are not just like optional. These tools are available to you, and this is why they're important. This is how they can help you, and you're going to be expected to use them. Another tool I missed is we do a fair amount with like URL analysis, domain analysis, and what have you, to help focus our reviews, identify privilege, all of that. So
that one day of training, is that a thing that many firms do? Hardly any firms do? Are you unique in doing that?
I don't know that we're unique, but I know when I talk about it with my peers, not everybody does it. So, some of the other stuff, of course, privacy is also another hot topic, right? And that's been, I think we're hearing a lot about it here today in cyber breach reviews, and we're hearing about it a few years ago. That was one of the big topics here at Legal Tech. And so being able to use things like the PII or PI identification and be able to, one of the things that I think is really important is to look at how your e-discovery platform and the analytic tools that are integrated with it can be applied to other areas, maybe non-traditional areas, so that you are really leveraging the investment for your firm and benefiting your clients long term.
As these tools become more widely available and more powerful, as you offer some training to new associates, as more senior attorneys perhaps pick up more on the use of this, how ubiquitous do you see the use of these capabilities in your firm? And not just whether they're using them at all, but how deeply are they using them?
I think, there are pockets of, initially, right, it was not a lot of firms or not a lot of maybe select attorneys within the firm. But the key is a couple things, I guess. Once you start to identify the attorneys that realize the value, appreciate the value, and will help evangelize, that's huge. I remember the first time I brought, and this was back in the days of, you remember Attenix with all the little dots and everything? And when I showed that to one of our key partners, he was like, Caroline, are you nuts? We are not using this. And eventually I got him to try it, and he became one of our most prolific users. And as a result, we were using those tools on his cases. So associates, junior partners were becoming familiar with them and then using it. It creates a ripple effect.
Right.
I also think one of the barriers that has started to diminish in the market is it used to be that some vendors were charging more for those tools versus others that were, this is part of what we offer. And since some of that additional cost has gone away, I think there's more of an appetite or a recognition of these tools add a lot of value, and we shouldn't be charging more for them. It's part of what the tool should be doing.
So, any parting thoughts for our audience here?
I guess I think this is a really exciting time. I'm sure I thought that when predictive coding came on the scene. I'm sure I thought it back in 1987 when direct data entry was a big deal.
Yep.
But a really exciting time, and I am happy to be back actually in New York at Legal Tech. I love coming here this is one of my favorite shows actually. Maybe just because it's in New York, I don't know. But I think it's an exciting time, and I would encourage people to look at what's happening and stay aware of this, of what's the revolution I think that's going to be coming.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So Caroline Sweeney is with Dorsey. I am George Sosha. This has been The E-Discovery Leaders Live. Like I said, it's been a long week. It's not over yet. E-Discovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Caroline, thank you so much.
Thank you, George. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thanks.
And we're good.